Here are some lipedema questions I've wrestled with. Why do my legs look so different from others even though I was a dancer? Why do I have dents in my thighs even when I weigh less than 100 pounds? Why do I gain 2 sizes overnight or 30 pounds in 3 weeks with no change in activity level and adherence to a healthy diet? Why do I gain weight after pregnancy and then never be able to lose it again? Why is weight gain in my body from my waist to my knees? Why do I have the fraction of the muscle strength I used to have? Why do I always feel puffy and inflated and inflamed, not just regular fat gain? Why is it that I hurt so much at the slightest touch? Why am I exhausted from so little effort? Why are my upper arms suddenly bigger than my lower arms? Why have my knees disappeared? Why does the tissue under my skin seem bumpy and distorted? Why do my arms and legs feel so heavy? Why do I gain weight so quickly? And even if I do tons of therapies and lose inches, I still weigh the same. Why am I not able to keep up with my life anymore? And why have doctors dismissed all of this for 30 years? Okay.
Well, hello, Miss Maynard.
Hello.
Long time no chat.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Sparkly as always. Well, we can just get this rolling, I guess. And it's been, I was going to look this up. I know it's been about 2 years since we did a shake chat. And you've had a lot going on in life. There's been a lot going on in the world. And, maybe we just do a little update today and see how life is with you and with Wildheart Wellness. For those of you that do not know Kelly, anybody on my page that doesn't know Kelly needs to be tickled or something. She is with a group, Lipedema, and I always get the name wrong, food intolerances. There's a sensitivity group, and as I always say, as much as I love my vibes, it's all about the food. 90% of it is about the food, so that's why I deflect you to their page. But Kelly's one of a very small group of people that have always been super kind to me since I got into this about 5-6 years ago, and has tolerated my dumb questions and my learning journey. But we all go through that. I'd love to hear how your last year has looked. You're looking well, but I'm sure there's been some struggles along the way. Tell me what's been shaking with you.
I appreciate you so much. And you know that at first you did have to prove yourself that you were really the vibration expert and you had a heart for lipedema, and you have done that over and over. And so you are our go-to person. So I really hope that anyone who's watching will go look at all those amazing get started videos, and you answer so many questions. And we appreciate so much that we have somewhere to send all the people in the group that I'm an admin for, the Lipedema and Food Sensitivities group, because people really do have a lot of questions. They may not know about all these devices that you help them with, massage guns and vibration plates and those kinds of things.
There's never any one solution, and there's lots of complicated problems in the group, and there's lots of different ways to solve those problems. So it's ever changing. It's never black and white. And part of the reason I'm excited to talk to Kelly today on a catch up is, she's one of those rare birds where some things have worked really, really well, and other things I've tried with her, I'll admit defeat. 99.9% of the time, the control freak in me knows that, I can navigate my way through a good experience, but there is the odd time where sometimes a certain technology or a way of using it just isn't conducive with your condition. And what's frustrating as heck for me with Kelly is, that there's a lot of gaps in what may be going on internally as well. So when you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, you don't always get a complete picture, if you will.
Yeah. So you and I have been talking about how best to use all these different technologies, and I do have a lot going on health-wise, not just lipedema and lymphedema, but all other kinds of weird stuff. And so the vibration plate wasn't something that was working for me really well. And we
tell them what happens. Tell them what happens with you in case someone else deals with it.
I have a really rare kind of migraine where I get stroke-like symptoms. If not every time I have migraines, but because migraines, just a not too bad migraine is not a contraindication for a vibration plate. And that is out there. So it's not a contraindication, but I have this really, really rare type where I get stroke-like symptoms, and using the vibration plate triggered something.
Yeah.
And no matter how we tried to do it, that doesn't mean it might trigger it for you. It just means if you have some kind of condition like that, you probably should start out slow. And not slow like I'm going to spend an hour on the vibration plate at really slow speeds where it's going like rocking like this and jarring your head back and forth real slowly. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, Debbie
Conservative.
had me 1 or 2 minutes seated with only my feet on to see how my body would react. So that's what we're talking about. She has all kinds of guidelines for speeds and types of machines that are best. And you really need to go to her page because there's no way we can answer every question for every health condition. That's not even a safe thing to do, to just give an across the board.
100%.
So, but I will say she gives great guidance, and it didn't work out for me. But the beauty of that is I was able to get her guidance. I was able to think through it step by step and see if it would work. And if you've had a weird experience with some sort of vibration plate at a gym, or you know, your friend has one, or your doctor's office had one in the corner or something like that, and you don't feel like it worked for you, really go seek out the startup videos that are on the vibration page, Vibration for Fat Disorders, and look through all the questions that Debbie's answered and see if maybe there was some setting that maybe you could adjust, or a length of time you were using it, or seated or standing, feet wide, feet close together. There's so many different variables.
Yeah.
That
Well,
you can change.
I will say as well, if you have had a poor experience, and that's kind of part of the reason the page started, is everybody gets this thing and they open the book, and we open the book, but we don't fit in the book in this group. That's
Right.
why but we want to think we fit into the book, you know, and maybe you're active, maybe you're not active, but you are dealing with other things. And for anyone starting, I don't care if it's a vibration machine or a gun or Aquafit, it's a new stimulus that your body has yet to adapt to. And, you know, in most cases, if you've had a poor introduction or a poor experience with the machine, I feel like I sound like a know-it-all sometimes on the page where I'm like, oh, I bet your feet were wide and you went really slow, simply because that information is there. So I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. But there is that instance where maybe you got it at a garage sale, or maybe you are trying it at a friend's, or, you know, perhaps you're trying it in a medical office. So why would you question the guidance? Nothing against my doctors out there, but how many hours a day do you spend training on vibration plates? And how many years have you been doing this? You know, I was doing this 10 years before I even knew what people like Kelly were dealing with. So the reason most people that are selling, you know, whether it's services or a product, wouldn't bring on bad experiences, but I'll be the first to recognize that you may have had a bad experience. Sometimes to me, that's your body telling me something. So Kelly's was migraines. And I really, someday when I'm a doctor and I can go back to school for 50 years, I think there's something that's happening at a hormonal and something is surging in her body through that Russian circulation, but how it's affecting up here, I don't know. And I do know with migraines, if anyone out there is dealing with head sensitivities, anything like that, start seated. But again, you know, there's all these, I try not to make it complicated. I try to make it tolerable, you know, so sometimes there's a little bit of trial and error, but unfortunately, Kelly is one of those rare people that, you know, maybe today things aren't working out for her. I'm kind of stubborn and hope that down the road, as she gets more information about what she's dealing with internally. And a lot of times we do get frustrated. You know, people will come to me and say, you know, have you got a study proving that these machines, you know, help with lipedema? Well, if you can show me a study that proves there's lipedema, then I could take that to the vibration machine. It's kind of a catch-22, because I'm in a device that not everybody's really heard of. And most of you are dealing with a condition that most people haven't heard of. But one of the things Kelly and I were talking about before we started was a lot of us don't have the label, you know, and I'm very much a big advocate of, I don't care if you have a sticker on your forehead, because you know what? Sometimes it's not right. And sometimes there's more than one, and you're going to run out of room to put all those stickers on your forehead. And the biggest reason, I don't want to say I don't care, but for me, it's not about the label. It's about the symptoms. So with Kelly, it was a headache, or it was swelling, or it was, your body will give you signs. Sometimes those signs isn't necessarily a sign that something is wrong. It's your body's way of dealing with something, whether it's trauma or maybe an infection. And what happens on a vibration plate is it ramps up the effects of those things. So if Kelly's the type of person that would have got a headache after going for too long of a walk, I can guarantee a vibration machine probably will trigger one right off the bat. So she's been kind enough to navigate through with me. And I only ask before I turn it back here, because I'm taking over, if you have had a poor experience, and especially if you've bought a machine and you're still within your 30-day return period, I don't care if it's a machine or a gun, or, don't just rule it out, reach out for help, before you return the thing. Because there's been a lot of times people have returned the device and, oh, I didn't know this, and then and had a lovely experience. And now you got all this shipping and return costs in the interim. So, and if you are trying, or you have access to a friend's or somewhere in a doctor's office, use your own discernment. Don't be led. You guys know your limitations, but when someone else presents themselves as the genie or the wizard, we want to believe that it's going to be different this time, and then we beat ourselves up. And so that there is a positive way to navigate, but reach out for help if you are having a bad experience. The good thing about Kelly letting me know that she had a bad experience is, sometimes I have to switch gears too. Maybe you're dealing with something right now. Maybe it's just not for you. I hate admitting defeat. But what I love about myself professionally in the last couple of years is I've diversified, not just in how I coach, but in the tools, because it's never one thing. Variety is the spice of life. And there's a lot of things Kelly was doing before I met her that were right already, but she has found a lot of relief, not through vibration through a plate, but vibration through a gun. So tell me a little about that.
I have had a really good experience with the gun. And one of the reasons I really like the gun is because it's more accessible than a lot of the other therapies to a wider range of women who need some relief. There are some therapies that are more expensive, and people might not feel like those are in their price range. The massage guns are everywhere. And you don't want to go buy a $20 massage gun. I wouldn't think. Not that I know a lot about massage guns, but you don't want the cheapest massage gun you can find, but you also don't need a $500 massage gun. And I'll just hit on something that I think is kind of a misunderstanding. Some people have had experiences with what are called massage guns that are tools in a chiropractic office that have prongs, and they are for adjusting your vertebrae. And that's not what we're talking about. There are some things I've learned about the massage gun, though, that have helped me deal with lipedema better. They're very portable. They're lightweight. My arms get really tired, but the massage gun isn't too heavy. And you can also switch it from hand to hand it's not hard to move from one hand to the other as you need relief in your arms. If your arms have lipedema, they can get super tired. The other thing I like about it is I also have Ehlers-Danlos, and so sometimes my grip is not very grippy. My hands are not that strong. I also don't have to worry about this massage gun shifting things. With some therapies or strenuous exercise, women who have Ehlers-Danlos, the hypermobility type, you have to worry about things moving out of place.
Misaligning.
A massage gun seems like it's some sort of intensive tool, but it actually can be really gentle.
It's all how you apply the tool.
It's all how you apply it. It's also doing double duty because it moves lymph, which, if you've been around the lipedema community for very long, you know that moving lymph is really important. Our lymphatic systems don't work that well. Yeah. And so I have my gun. I was just going to show. It's not heavy. Mine is kind of a medium size. I know that Deb, you have the smaller version.
Yeah. You know what? I still like, it really depends. And because you're talking on hands, I'm going to make 1 point. Sometimes we this one I think is like 1 point or 2 pounds total. but it's got a little bit of a squishy handle. Like there's like a foam on the handle of Kelly's gun. The little one, although I love it, it's a steel handle. And I find, even though it's less powerful than the gun Kelly's got, I find if you got itty bitty hands or it's arthritic, it is a little bit more intense to hang on to, even though it's lighter. So what and because of the there's a scientific word here, but because the gun is vibrating and just hanging on to it, the hand itself is getting therapy. So if you're so below baseline that you can't do some of the stuff Kelly's doing, just by holding on to it for a minute or two to get started is going to just strengthen the hands and give you till you progress to other things.
Right. So a couple of tips that I have. One is, your hand is going to get tired if you grip this gun as tightly as you can. It's not really necessary to grip it tightly. I can hold it even just like this. It doesn't, tip over. You can hold it light with a light grip.
Don't overexert while you're holding it.
Don't overuse your finger, especially if you have a hypermobility thing or arthritis or something in your hands. You want to hold it gently.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when you're using it, you don't have to use all these muscles to press it in. You don't want to be pushing it into your skin. You can let the gun, with its small amount of weight, do whatever compression of your skin is necessary. That's kind of the whole point. But it's very quiet, so I'm gonna turn it on real quick if I can do it. It vibrates super fast, so it's not jamming into you. It's barely, it goes so fast you can glide it over your skin without pushing it into your skin. I
call that skimming the surface. So she's basically just at the skin surface. She's not applying any pressure.
I'm not applying any pressure.
It's just the weight of the gun.
It doesn't dig in to my arm at all. This helps a lot with pain, because some of the therapies are so intense and our tissues already have pain a lot of times with touch or with any kind of like pressing into them. So this I like, because you can hold it right at the surface. You can let it fall a little bit and it'll press in a little bit more. I always use it on a medium kind of setting.
Yeah.
And this ball is softer than some of the other attachments that we have that it comes with. The other thing is, you don't want to overuse it. This is not something that you want to use for hours a day.
No, and you don't need to.
But you need to understand that if you go get a massage, the massage therapist will say, okay, this is working stuff out of your tissues. You need to hydrate. You need to, you should expect, maybe you'll feel a little fatigued. If you go overboard on this gun, it's going to be the same kind of effect. So because we already have lipedema, we have this condition that our body's using energy all the time, extra energy to deal with all these things going on. We want to start out really slowly with the massage gun. Yeah. Maybe a minute up and down your arm, up and down your legs, across all the areas where you have lymph nodes. Go get a lymph chart.
Yep.
And look at those areas.
And see how you feel.
And see how you feel.
Yeah.
Don't get your significant other to be pushing this into all your muscle groups.
No.
For 45 minutes, and don't do all that. We want to start out slowly.
The caution I'll give too is it usually feels pretty damn good. So it's easy. The nice thing about a massage gun is you're kind of in control of your own, whether you want to go deeper or lighter. And sometimes that varies, maybe you can take more on the arms, but less on the legs, especially if you've got fibro or other things. But what I will say, many of you are prone to bruising as well. So all the more reason to take Kelly's advice and just, try it for a minute or two. Don't be surprised if you have a bruise or two. That's not uncommon. If it's something that consistently moves, maybe sometimes it's the tip that you're using. Kelly was using the soft foam one. There's different ones in there that a lot of ladies are going to come back later and say, but I love this one and that one. That's part of any therapy we talk about experimenting. Tolerance is going to vary. And tolerance will grow with this as well. I've got a few ladies that started out, just barely skimming it for 30 seconds to a minute. And now it's like, I don't give a shit if I'm bruised. I'm getting this lymphoma out tonight. So your tolerance with this will grow once you got a little bit more confidence using it too, and understand what your limits and parameters are.
And the tissues under your skin, the connective tissue, it's in layers.
Yes.
So if you have these, right here, I have a bump that used to be worse. I have a bump right here where there is fibrotic tissue on my wrist. And this gun, like, you can scan over it and you can tell where it is. But if you try to dig into that without first softening up the top layer and then the next layer and then the next layer, it's a process. Yeah. You don't have to get to the bone on your first gun use. You can gentle working through the layers and you'll have much better results and it'll be more comfortable. One of the best uses that I found for this is if I've overdone it, and that doesn't actually necessarily mean a hard workout or something, because I'm at a point with my lipedema, I don't do extreme workouts, but I'll have like an underlying ache. Yep. If I exert too much, if I didn't get enough rest, if I had to walk upstairs and stuff that day, the massage gun is great for recovery. Yes. It's really good for recovery. You just can glide it over your muscles and it will help them release. It'll help them recover faster. And that's one of the best uses that I've found with it. It'll also soften up those areas. I read a comment the other day. I don't remember what lipedema group it was in or who made it, but it was, my lipedema is not that bad. I just have these hard fat deposits. Some of my fat is hard. And I'm like, but your fat isn't supposed to be hard. No. And I think I used to believe too, well, it's just harder. And no, fat is supposed to be squishy. So if you have those places where your fat feels hard, that's a great place to use the gun, because that means that's abnormal tissue. And
the lymph has got blockages going on there too. Right?
Of course it does.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you're also a woman who has a hard time with mobility, a lot of us lose mobility. You may not be in bed all the time, like completely have lost mobility, but it may hurt to get up and walk around. Yeah. So you tend to sit more. That place in your hips that's always bent because you're sitting, there are some major lymph nodes there. In that area. And you need to be using that gun, the tops of your thighs and the hip area right there. It will make you feel a lot better and it'll loosen that area up. I was thinking the other day, people who are bedridden, they do all these leg exercises. They go in and work the limbs.
For the same reason.
The same reason. And the massage gun is a great tool, because if you really do not feel like you can move, there have been times I just have the massage gun on my nightstand, and before I even attempt to get up and I, go through all the pain of wondering if I can go to the bathroom when I first get out of bed, if you grab it and you just do that hip area, and even if you have extra weight, even if you aren't very mobile, even if all these things, most people can do a little bit, just holding this gun as an extension of their hand and running it over the tops of their thighs. Like, it's an easy thing to do. 5 minutes.
Well, it gets a surge of circulation and lymph to that, so yes, absolutely great for recovery. But in this instance, call it warm up if you want, but right. I always call it the pre and the post treatment. A lot of times therapists and those that have a clue that are incorporating these technologies, if you've got a spot that you're going in to get work done at the therapist, or you've got an area that is typically blocked, you could even use this for a few minutes to pre-treat the area. You're right. Using it to pre-treat to get out of bed and do the pain. But something else Kelly and I were talking about is fascia and bringing up this discussion of layers. It's like pastry. I always say it's like pastry. There's all these different layers, and sometimes we can feel a lump or we can feel tension, but you know, where it is within that layer of fascia, or how long it's been there. You know, is there scar tissue? All the more reason, you know, to sometimes warm up the area, even if you're targeting something specific, like let's say on her arm. And then as you progress in your tolerance and your durations, you know, you'll find you'll be able to get a little bit deeper, but maybe not initially, warming up the area to get rid of the sensitivities. And you know, I understood the importance of fascia, and I know there's a lot of people that do fascia work and so forth. And long ago, I was saying also to Kelly before on camera, when I joined their group years ago, a lot of the information I like to reference or validate for myself because there's never one answer to everything, it seems, but sometimes there's better ways of explaining it when I want to share stuff. And I'm not the expert, but I do find a lot of people that are doing that fascia work, whether it's massage therapists or chiropractors, I'm finding it, this is not gospel, but I'm finding it very fascinating, their level of grasping these conditions and understanding how to treat these conditions, which to me sometimes is more, you know, so maybe you get the diagnosis and then maybe your insurance company pays for things, but it's understanding that this is not just a fat thing, and it's understanding, if, you know, whether it's lipedema, whether it's, you know, something else, you know, if you need an adjustment, let's say in your neck, it doesn't mean that lipedema caused it. It could have been the fall off your bike, but understanding and finding the right person to align your neck, regardless of what caused the misalignment, would be important. So, you know, I know you had good experience. Tell me about your experience with that. But and Kelly's kind of been my go-to for that for like 5 years now. So,
when I first found out I had lipedema, I looked at all kinds of things, and one of the first things I ran across was a picture showing normal fascia, and people call it fascia, connective tissue. They call it different things, but it was a picture showing normal connective tissue, and then it was a cross section of an actual human body, and then a cross section of fascia, all crammed with abnormal fat cells, and what happens when those fat cells grew into the fascia. And I learned that fascia, it's another kind of organ in your body.
Yep.
It has nerve cells. It communicates. It has things to do with your immune system and your circulation. I mean, it's all part of one bigger thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get very scientific because that's not why we're here, but pain is contained in that connective tissue if it's not healthy.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of things that can make it not healthy. If you have a scar, that part of your connective tissue is not healthy because it's been cut and it's healed over and now it's hardened right there. So it's not doing what it's supposed to do. That's just a small example.
And many have lymphomas. You know, that's one of the big things we talk, you know, you can feel that lump, but you don't know if it's on the top layer, if it's down on the bone. Right. We see them in the spine and the knuckles, like they develop everywhere.
Yeah. And so I started thinking, if I could find someone who could address the unhealthy fascia, maybe that would help me not have as much pain, because I'm a mom. I had a 3-year-old daughter, plus my teenagers, who my 3-year-old couldn't lean against my arm without it hurting so much that I had to tell her to move. And it's real hard to cuddle up at night and read books. And I mean, it's hard to have a 3-year-old who doesn't want to climb on you like a monkey. So that was my day when I was like, it's enough. And so I started researching in my area. Is there anyone who is a connective tissue expert? Is there anyone who has this label of that does fascia release? Because that's kind of the term that they use for a massage therapist or someone who knows about it. And the guy that I found, which is why it's important to let yourself think outside the box.
Yes.
The guy that I found is a sports chiropractor. And the reason he knows about fascia and is a certified fascia specialist is because professional athletes get injured. And the place they get injured
is in the connective tissue. If they break a bone, if they tear a muscle, if they do any of these things, it damages the connective tissue. And to restore those athletes to peak performance, not only does the bone have to heal, not only does the muscle have to repair itself, but that connective tissue has to be restored. Otherwise, there's no flexibility, there's no give. The athlete can't do what they used to do. And so with that understanding, I go to this person and he has heard of lipedema, which was a surprise, but he doesn't really know about lipedema. And he, back to your point, he said, you know what? I know connective tissue. I know what causes pain in connective tissue, and I know how to restore connective tissue. It doesn't matter if you have lipedema or if you're an athlete who's been injured, or if you're someone else who's, you know, got scar tissue. I can help your pain.
And then you went.
And it wasn't that he was dismissing whatever condition I have. He was saying the root cause of this pain that you have right here and the lack of mobility is because of unhealthy tissue. And I'm an expert in that tissue. So yes, I can help you. And he did. And it was in very few sessions. He wasn't trying to like get as much money as he could. It was in very few sessions, like less than 2 months. I went from being in bed about 20 hours a day to being able to be out of bed and do things.
Amazing.
And
it wasn't about getting the diagnosis, you know, the root cause. I'm so glad you brought that word up. You know what I mean? And that can change with this condition. You've got a lot of other things dealing, but that kind of got it right back to, regardless of what the damn label is. Fascinating.
Yes. The other thing I really want people to hear is he would not write that I had lipedema on his chart because he wasn't comfortable. He didn't deal in diagnoses.
Yeah.
But it did not matter in the end.
Yeah.
So, and
we think it does though.
I really wanted it to matter.
Yeah.
But when I left his office that day, this is what the process that went through my mind. Do I want his help to have a better quality of life, or do I want to spend that same energy convincing him that I'm right about my diagnosis?
Yeah.
His job is his main job is treating athletes who are hurt.
Yeah.
Do I need to spend all that time and energy arguing with the person who has knowledge that can help me? Or do I just want to rest in this and get help? And I chose not to fight.
Yeah.
If people want to fight and that's their fight, I say fight because we need people who fight.
Yeah.
But I want people to also really hear, if you don't have it in you to argue with that next doctor, then don't argue with that next doctor.
Yeah.
And if that doctor makes you, if that doctor can get you what you need, but doesn't believe all that you say, it's okay to take what they can give you and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Or if that doctor blows you off and acts like you're an idiot, well, you can blow that doctor off because that doctor is an idiot. You don't have to accept what the doctor's giving you. And you also don't have the responsibility to go convince every medical professional you encounter that lipedema is real and that you really have it and that they need to do a certain thing. Because I can tell you that sometimes they believe it's real and they know about it, but they don't care to do something for you. Not maybe because they're a terrible person, but I had a doctor tell me, that's nice, but that's just not within my realm of focus and my practice.
Yeah. Sometimes for them, it's a fight too. And a lot of people don't realize, you know, as a business treating these types of conditions, you know, even though there is a standard of care now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the insurance companies and everything that funds behind the scenes. So maybe the focus isn't there for the business, but what it really boils down to is it's a fight for them too. So even if you do convince them, you know, I think we're all looking for some miracle that's going to ride in on a unicorn and just, you know, go out there and start giving out tickets to doctors that don't believe this condition exists. It's not going to happen.
No.
You know, because there's so many other conditions out there that, but we know. One more thing, Kelly and I were talking, even if you did get the diagnosis and you did, you know, really what's going to help you move and feel better is doing whatever it is you're doing for the self-care piece. And I personally think the consistency, Kelly brought this up a couple times, you know, they're not going to tell you to try a massage gun because it'll help you make your hands stronger and it'll help you, unless they're selling one. They're not going to tell you to go try, you know, just doing aqua size and you know, doing less load bearing activities, because they're going to try and give you a treatment that's within their medicine cabinet. You know, so, you know, sometimes when we're going to these doctors looking, you know, even if you do get the diagnosis, it doesn't necessarily mean that the suggested care is going to be the best solution for you either. So why wait? Start experimenting now. That's really, you know, one of the things I love about Kelly so much. You know, it didn't work out early on the vibration machine. And, you know, there's days where she told me to, you know, I just can't think about it today, but she never, ever quit. Never quit. You know, it's, you know, sometimes we have exits and sometimes we got to take a breather, and we all need to recognize that sometimes, but consistent, regular use, you know, get workout and exercise and kill it, you know, start caring for yourself. Self-care, that, you know, it's probably one of the biggest terms in marketing right now, but self-care for me is better facilitated in the home. If you're using home products, they're usually less expensive. They're more attainable. Like Kelly said, you can probably get a massage gun for about $50. You know, what would I look, you know, I'm coming across bias because I do represent a couple of brands on my page, but why do I represent the brands that I do? Well, one of them has a lifetime warranty. I don't want to deal with broken guns and broken zippers or heads. And there's no perfect company out there if it's affordable. But, you know, I've spent a lot more money on medical versions of vibration machines and guns, and the service wasn't always there either. You know, so for a lot of you, when you reach out for help, which isn't often enough sometimes, the last thing you want is a poor experience there too. Right? So you find something that works, it breaks, and then you feel like crap trying to get it fixed. So when you're looking for products, of course, I always have recommendations, but is there a company? You know, there's a lot of things being sold on eBay, by eBay, that if you do have a problem or something happens with you, is there somebody on the other end of the phone call? You know, I'll help you as much as I can, but I'm not here to, and Kelly's not here to be free support for everything that we happen to recommend to our friends and our family. So that's an important thing. And if you are spending a lot of money, make sure that, what is the warranty? Is it 90 days? Is it a week? Is it, I was at a show this weekend and it was this like half off. It was the best deal ever, but it was only a 72-hour warranty. And then after, like, it was, and I'm like, well, so I'm getting half off, but if I got to rebuy it in 6 months, what's the, so sometimes we just shop by price. You know, and because we spent a lot, we think we're getting better quality, or because we spent less, we think we're getting inferior quality. You know, sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes you can get a really good deal just because somebody else didn't have the desire to use it consistently, right? And anybody I know that has figured out how to use a gun for their body and started using it regularly, how many used massage guns do you see for sale? Not very many, right? How many used vibration machines do we see for sale? Quite a few, because we think it's exercise and we have to work, and sometimes we talk ourselves out of it. So the gun Kelly was sort of showing off today, just to give, I think the Sonic, it's usually like $120, 130. Like, it's
maybe, yeah.
But
there's always,
there's deals.
they've had deals on them too. And I wasn't doing free advertising. I'm just showing the gun that I have that I've used and had success with. There's other options out there. The other
Kelly,
thing
you said it was a mid grade. It's probably a really good representation of the average gun out there as far as the size of the handles. And we look at things sometimes differently because we have physical experience using it. And the biggest thing, I know it's a stupid thing, but you want, the more adjustable speeds you have, the better. You know, if it's only got 1 or 2 speeds, you ain't got a whole lot of variety, and it's probably not going to be the most pleasant experience. The other thing with a massage gun is there's a factor called an amplitude. An amplitude is how far that ball is moving back and forth, and it varies between guns. Some of the bigger, badder guns will have a higher strike force, if you want to call it that, and the smaller the gun, the slower the strike force. So it kind of, what I have found with a gun like Kelly's, where it's kind of in the middle, I think you're 11 mils, like she was showing, like you don't have to put a lot of effort. Sometimes the littler gun, you actually have to apply a bit of pressure because it doesn't have a lot of work itself. And then sometimes the big gun, it's so funny. One of my men, I got all these big burly farmers, they can't handle the big guns. Oh, it's too strong. Yeah, they get all these women that are like, oh yeah, they're like digger heads. So it's, again, a tolerance thing. But if you're looking for a day-to-day use like Kelly's, I don't recommend the biggest or the baddest, because I think you're going to find the bruising. It's just going to be too intense. So
Yeah.
again, it's not always about spending the most, whatever brand you're looking at.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is, just because our page, the food sensitivities page, has about 8,000 people now,
Yep.
and I see the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to buy any kind of equipment or try any kind of therapy, own that. Educate yourself.
Yeah.
Find out what you need to do. Know your own body. Start slowly and try some things. You don't have to have a formal diagnosis
You don't
to
need permission.
effectively, no, you don't have to have permission to use a massage gun. And sometimes a doctor will tell you, you better not use that gun, because they don't know anything about the gun.
Yeah. And that,
They
to be
can't
honest,
recommend-
that's the responsible answer, because they can't give you an opinion.
Right. And so I'm 100% agreement. There's a lot you can do at home. Number one that's always consistent with me is nutrition, because the more I journaled out, that's a silly saying, the more I kept a food journal.
Yeah.
And tracked, if I eat this, how do I feel? If I eat this, do I hurt? Do I swell? Do I have more limited mobility? What is it doing in my body? The more I could tailor a nutrition program to fit my needs, that would help me feel the best. So that's always in place. Hydration, always in place. You can't move your lymph, and your connective tissue can't be healthy if you're chronically dehydrated. You can't. And I'm not saying drink a gallon of water a day. I'm saying pay attention to your body. How much water do you need? Because you don't need 2 cups of water and 4 soft drinks a day. That's not hydration, you know? The other thing is, there's really easy things that you can do. You don't have to go pay someone to do aqua fitness. You can play with your kids in the pool, and it's fine. You can stand in the pool.
Bury your weight. That's what keeps your bones strong.
And the pressure from the water works as compression. You can walk slowly in the water. You don't have to do extreme things.
Do what you can.
Do what you can. You can go for a stroll through your neighborhood slowly with someone you care about. You don't have to do these big, huge workouts to say that you are successful in doing what you need to do to care for your body.
Just do something consistently.
Do something. Yes. Consistently do something, and try some things.
Yeah.
You know,
you might be pleasantly surprised.
You might be surprised. There's tons of things that you can do. We've got some videos for all kinds of therapies that I've personally tried, because I'm my own experiment, my own guinea pig, my self-contained experiment right here. Try everything. And it's very disheartening to me to always hear people say, well, I wasn't told I could do that. Well, what were you told? Because if you were just told you don't have lipedema, get out of my office, that's not right either. So you have to weigh where this advice is coming from. We're not saying blow off real medical advice from an informed professional who knows your condition, that you're working with closely, who has said it would be better for your specific body to not do a certain thing. What we're saying is there are safe things that you can do while you find someone to diagnose you, or
Yeah.
if you never get a diagnosis, there are still things that you can do.
And I will also say too, we've got to start putting ourselves on the pedestal and giving ourselves more credit. Nothing against our medical professionals, but they have to deal with thousands of you with all these different nuances. And, sometimes we all get complacent. And one of the common things, is the doctor said you can't do this, or my therapist said that you can't. Well, why? Tell me why. What is that based on? Because I'll tell you, every one of you will hold me accountable on my page if I make a claim. So sometimes because I'm so good at answering questions and Kelly's so good at answering questions, it's safer to approach us with the hard questions. But if you're coming to me asking me why your doctor said no, I don't know. You should ask them that question before you leave the office. Because a lot of times, to Kelly's point, it's a lack of understanding of the machines, and maybe one of their clients had a bad experience. I've had that happen before, or maybe the chiropractor got in a machine and it wasn't. There's no such thing as a bad machine, but there are different technologies out there that feel like night and day, and they might be preaching one type of technology, and you try to translate that to what we're talking about. It's like trying to compare nutrients. Unless you're looking at the ingredients and the percentages of, you just because it's a calcium pill doesn't mean it's going to make your bones better. So you've got to vet things further. So if you get a no, you don't have lipedema, you'll argue that all day long. But if they say no, you can't use a massage gun. Well, why? Especially if you're already using it and it makes you feel better. I've had that too, where you've been using something. There was one of the, sometimes there are times where I'll say, no, you shouldn't be using a machine. But it's really, really rare. So if you're 3-4 months in and your gun's doing wonders for you and all of a sudden someone tells you shouldn't, why wouldn't you ask why? Why? What, did they have a bad experience? Maybe you can turn it around for someone else. So, it's be that curious kid. Don't admit defeat. And what I guess fears me the most is, if Kelly had never reached, and I'll wrap up after this, but if Kelly had never reached out to me and told me it made, because I pushed, and I'm like, how's it going? And she's very, very polite with my questions, but I was worried that one of two things. She was that person that, I went out of my way to get her going on this thing and she just didn't care and it was still sitting in the box, which wasn't the case. Or second, she tried it, didn't do what I asked, and went way overboard and harmed herself and was, sometimes too shy to admit that. Well, it wasn't either. She tried it and stuck with it. And you know what? It just wasn't for her. But I would never have been able to switch gears and maybe introduce her to other things had she not communicated with me. So there's never a black and white answer with me. There's never a black and white answer on your page with food, but we can have healthy discussions after you've read the preliminary stuff on the page. I don't mean to be the Gestapo, but both of our groups are getting astronomically large. And when someone comes into my group and says, oh, I had a horrible experience and my head was hurting really, really bad. And I ask, well, were your feet really wide? And you say, oh, they were. I know that you haven't watched a single thing, because every single video, there's certain things. I'm not doing this to test you. I'm doing this to minimize that bad experience. So sometimes just by the way that questions are posed on the pages, I know that you haven't read the stuff because the answers are there. So I'm not doing that, nor is Kelly and Cheryl or Angelique. We don't do all these, please read all this crap just because we don't want to answer questions. But sometimes if it's a common question, we've answered that thing 50, 60, 70,000 ways, and then other newbies get involved. And what I sometimes, if I'm not so mindful and I'm not on the page because I'm a sole admin on mine, there could be 8 hours of conversation and bad advice and everybody's getting vertigo because I didn't get a chance to answer the question. So just, make sure that you utilize the resources, not only on my page, but on Kelly's got 2 pages, actually. I'll divert back on my wrap up here. We've talked a lot about the lipedema and the food sensitivities page, which isn't just lipedema. I don't want to keep giving them all the credit. It's Durkheim's. It's, there, so few of you have one thing. I don't think anybody has just one thing in the group. you know, but it's also Wildheart Wellness. Kelly is a caregiver herself. She's one of those unique people that has a different set of skills and experience to help her clients. And if you're following the food sensitivities page, you'll also be able to find her. I'm going to do some links here as well, but make sure you follow her personal page as well, Wildheart Wellness, and I'll drop a link to that. It's more local, and you probably know a few of her clients. You've probably seen them on some of the other pages out there. And Kelly's very good about sharing not only her positive experiences, but when she does have a setback. And for me, that's motivating in a number of levels, because it's good to share the good, but sometimes it's good to share the bad too, and know that you're not alone. You know, other people have setbacks, and it's not just you. You know, everybody has a bad doctor experience once in a while. Everybody falls down the stairs once in a while. But, you know, Kelly is one of those rare individuals that even though she's probably carrying an excessive load, as far as the conditions, there's more of them that she has than she needs to be dealing with. But it's okay to have a break. It's okay to not want to talk. It's okay. You know, sometimes you wake up and it's just one of those days. So communication's key. We live in a world where it's so easy to be understood wrong or type it wrong. We're not all authors and wordsmiths. So if you truly have looked through things and things aren't working out for you, we are here for help. And the food even though I'm all about vibration, is really the biggest, but I think also the hardest thing to get consistent with. So, you know, don't think, just like vibration machines, you know, it doesn't mean you have to commit to a whole big workout for the next 6 months. Pick one thing. You know, maybe it's water, you know, maybe it's reducing the amount of coffee, or maybe it's, you know, just getting a couple more hours sleep a night. Pick one positive thing that's within your power. Keep it simple, and you'll be surprised how much it might actually motivate you to do something else, right? You know, probably won't motivate you to listen to me for 2 hours, but you know, I get very motivated by folks like Kelly. I don't have a lot wrong with my health, and sometimes we take that for granted. You know, when I have an achy or a painy day, it puts me in touch with my mortality. You know, we're not bulletproof, and I don't want you guys, you know, leaving things so long to the point where that hill is so much steeper to climb. Be like Kelly. You know, who cares if you have a diagnosis or not? If you're doing something that you know gives you relief, do it more consistently. If you've got something you've been meaning to try, or you know, you've been looking at making some good food changes, you know, put yourself in a space and surround yourself with people that foster those changes, that support those changes. You know, Kelly, you hit the nail on the head. You know, you don't need permission to do anything, but you do sometimes need a little reinforcement to keep things going. That's my 2 cents. So you're your own God, right? Goddess. Anyways, so Kelly's gonna go. She's exhausted because she was talking to me for a bit before we actually got on the video, and her little one's been peeking at her through the window, and mine are stumbling upstairs. Our daughters are like a year apart in age, so maybe someday the geographic won't keep us so separated. But thank you for sharing your wisdom, and I really hope people embrace their own power like you have, and you don't need to wait for help. That was the big message today. I'm not beating up on doctors. I know sometimes it sounds like I do, but they're very busy people. I couldn't imagine staying versed in the scientific community and the medical community today. You know, everything boils down to toxicity in some way, shape, or form, and it's coming at us from so many different angles, whether it's mental or physical struggles that you're dealing with. It's okay to have good days. It's okay to have bad days, but you know, reach out when you need help. Yes. Just like I reach out to Kelly sometimes when I don't, you know, I have bad days too. And, you know, sometimes I think it's just me. We get caught up in our own heads sometimes. And, you know, she, like me, I spend a lot more time sometimes with the little people than I do the big people. And sometimes, you know, I'm just a little kid too, and I get boo-boos, and I want, you know, sometimes we just need to know someone's in our corner. And even though, Kelly can't fix things for me and I can't always fix things for her, it's just nice to know that there's someone that understands. Yeah. So, and look at how sparkly she is. Does she look like she's 30? Hardly.
35.
Right? There's not a wrinkle on that face. I'm going to come closer and
there's 30 though.
Well, no. Kelly and I are in, we're both entering our fifth decade on this planet. But I was saying to her as well before we got started here, I just don't take as much crap as I used to. I used to just, oh, please listen to me about my machines and how wonderful they can be. And you know what? I'm not selling anymore. I'm here to help if you want. I'm here to help the willing. That's where I'm at my point in my life. And thank you for always being such a willing guinea pig, not only with my stuff, but you've dabbled in a lot of things and have been a very big contributor to the community as a whole, long before I've gotten involved. So thank you for always being such a positive resource for me.
Thank you for your chat, inviting me to chat with you. And thank you for your page has exploded.
Well, I think we're like duplicate. Yours is food, mine is shaking, but I think there's a lot of common members. So I'm glad that there's a good balance between the two and a compliment. It's great.
But I'm appreciative of your heart, because you don't want to just sell machines. You have a heart for helping women discover what will really benefit them when they're
at least exploring it.
Yeah, when their quality of life needs improvement because of these various conditions that you've become aware of, you just want them to be free of all the pain and be able to move around and enjoy life. And I mean, that's what our page is about too.
Power yourself.
Yeah.
And lean on the rest of us for those days that it's a little bit harder, hey?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to your family. It's probably dinner time. I got to start thinking about, it's the thing that sucks about being a grown up is this food 3 times a day and cleaning bathrooms. And nobody told us this when we were little girls. No. All right. Thank you so much, Kelly. I'll let you get on with your evening. And I look forward to talking with you again very soon.
All right.
Thank you, hon.